suffer through.
They wrapped it.
Yeah. And it's when you move.
Good evening. Would you stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance, please? Councilman Rogers.
Let us pray. Our God, our Father in heaven, we thank you for this day, for the blessings you've given to each and every one of us. Tonight we'd like to make a special plea for you to help the families who have lost loved ones during the crisis in El Paso and Dayton. Be with their families, comfort them in a way that only you can do. Tonight we pray that you'll be with us and guide us as we go about the business of the city. We continue to pray for those serving in the armed forces abroad. Be with them, guard them, protect them. These things we pray in Christ's name, and amen.
Amen. Councilman Marshall, would you lead us in the pledge tonight?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, Tony's still in here. But she's coming. We have three people that have signed up for the public forum this evening. So, Henry, you're first.
Henry Sasson, 1307 Greenmont Hills Drive here in Vienna. I'm going to use the overhead here. This is the second time in the second session of council meeting where I've been using pictures. On Sunday, my kids and I were going to the store and we came upon this, but I didn't have my phone where we can get a picture of it. But on Monday, I did, or I should say my kids did. Going through as we were heading towards the mall on Grand Central, there was one of those motorized bicycles. So going through, how's this thing over here? Okay, there's the guy. He changed lanes, no helmet. He's got like an animal hat on, real furry thing. Eventually took it off. There's no flashing light that's on the back. And then when you go through and look at the second picture, here he is at the light. No red flashing light or whatever. So I stopped at the station and I told one of the cops, because he was then when we were coming back, he was bouncing around, going up towards Sam's Club and then back and zigzagging around on Grand Central. So these ain't legal. I understand from talking to the officer that you have to have the flashing light, you have to have a helmet. And whenever he's at the intersection at the light, it stops, and for him to start it back up, he has to pedal it like a bike. It starts and then it takes off again. I think those things go pretty good. I think about 30, 40 miles an hour. So that's all I had.
I've never seen him, Henry, but thank you.
Twice in 2 days.
Yeah, I've never seen the
So
guy.
just a heads up.
All right. Just as a follow-up for your last pictures that you brought, we did camera all of the catch basins in that area, and we found one of the catch basins was restricted. I went up there this afternoon right after the rain, and there is no standing water, so jet rodding that storm drain did take care of, hopefully took care of that problem that you brought pictures of the last time. So thank you for that. Okay. Lawrence?
My name is Lawrence Wilson. I live at 1312 10th Street here in Vienna. Two things I'd like to discuss very briefly. Number one is item number 1011 on the renewal of the Sudden Link franchise. Now, I don't know if you people pay much attention to the media, but Sudden Link is taken an awful beating for their poor service in the past few months. And I would hope that if you're going to renew this for them, that somehow you can put in the contract some very definitive penalties and requirements for service levels as far as response time and just generally taking care of the customers rather than sending them bills and collecting money, because there's a lot of problems with them. The other thing I'd like to talk about is about the middle of last year, I believe it was, the city council reinitiated the public forum. The hell is this?
You've been hacked.
Yes, better me than somebody else. But in any case, the public forum was reinitiated. Now, I'm very grateful you folks managed to get that back going again. However, now why don't we take this thing one more step, or actually two more steps? Why don't we do the utility board meetings and the budget and finance committee meetings? Because I know there's some people that actually would like to ask a comment, something about an agenda, or maybe possibly just have a comment about something that needs to be addressed concerning either of those functions. So I'd like you to go in just a couple more steps here. Let's get the whole community involved in all of these major committees. Thank you.
Bruce? Did you bring any pictures with you this evening?
We brought a video.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, I have pictures for you, if these will help you.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Stauffer.
Can you hang on, Bruce?
Pardon me?
Would you hold on? You hear the fire siren? All right, now you may go, please.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Stauffer. This is my wife, Kara. We live at 4705 8th Avenue. And coming before the council again, this is third time here to address the drainage issues, the storm drains on 8th Avenue. I'm sure this is a recurring issue. I'm not the only one with problems in Vienna, but I'm just very concerned about inaction on the drainage system. We flooded again Wednesday night. I've lost track of how many times we've flooded. I've taken a lot of measures into my own hands to try and correct the problem. I've been unsuccessful. It's just these deluges. It seems the storms are becoming more severe, more rainfall in a shorter period of time, and the systems just won't handle it. The current drainage and the sump pumps, the drains I've put in front of my house no longer are satisfactory. I can put this on the overhead.
You want to go the other way?
Does that adjust?
Just hold it.
That's not how to do it.
Jim, help him do that, would you please?
Here's a little bit better picture.
Yeah, just hold it instead of turning it. Just hold it.
Oh, I got you. Thank you. As you can see, the design in front of our home is not ideal, especially for the location of the house, or in the where it is located in the street. It's a low point in the road, but there just seems to be there has to be an answer for alleviating the drainage issue. We have a video of a current Wednesday night or Wednesday morning flood. This is, you know, I hate to say it, I made the comment to my friends at work. I left work to come home to clean it up again. And they text me, asked me how it is, and my comment was, oh, it's just like the normal one. I mean, that's what it's resulted to. I run home and feel like that's my normal actions I have to take. I'm at a loss, to be honest with you. I don't know what else to do, where else to turn. I know you guys have done engineering study in front of the home. I'm not sure where we ended up with that, but the study was done. I know it's probably an expensive venture, but I mean, I would think we need to develop some plan of action. We were told 20 years ago when we flooded in 1999 that there was a long-term plan in place to deal with it. This was Mayor Noe at the time. And I'm just not really satisfied. It's just a lot of inaction, I'm afraid. So, but I can put it on there.
I'm sorry, like when I was videoing this yesterday morning, I was extremely angry, so there's no curse words or anything, but yeah, I was not happy. I'm really tired of putting up with this. It's like we cannot even sleep at night when it rains because we're so afraid we're going to flood. We have had at least 30 floods. We just can't continue to live this way. We're getting older. We can't continue to, every time it rains, pick up 60-pound sandbags to the top of our driveway. I can't pick them up if no one's home to help me. Either I kill my back or we just flood. I mean, that's all there is to it. We've spent thousands and thousands of dollars of our own money to try and fix this problem, and it's just, we can't do it anymore. I mean, we lived there for 20 years, over 30 floods at least. It's ruined the foundation of our house, I'm sure. All of our furniture, my daughter's bedroom is downstairs. I had to, I got out of the shower yesterday morning to the sound of rushing water into our house, ran downstairs, Riley, get up, office stuff on our floor from college, on the floor, everything. It's just, we just can't take it anymore. I mean, we've been trying to be patient, but all these years of this, our nerves are shot. We go on vacation, have to come home because our house is flooded again. It's just not right. We shouldn't have to live this way. But we have like a 4-minute video, if I can get it set up right. Should be able to see it better than
It's dark outside.
It'll get bright in a minute. we used to have nice things down there, we used to have carpet. After about the third flood, we said, well, this, carpet's gonna have to go, we're gonna have to put down tile. It's just.
It's the biggest concern. As many times as that stuff has been wet, you have to be concerned about a health issue also. I mean, we go through the whole routine. I hate to admit it, but I'm getting pretty good at it. But, you gotta bleach everything, but so many times after wood's been soaked, one of these times, you're not gonna get it all the way dry. You're gonna end up with mold and then health issues to deal with.
Bruce, would you put the picture back up? That is the aerial view, please.
Sure. Whoops, I'm sitting here thinking what I got, but, sorry.
Okay, would you show us which house is yours?
Is it the one with the red balloon
Yeah,
on it?
right here.
Okay. So, anything else, Bruce?
My neighbor on the corner, right here, Larry Clinton, he's observed the water coming down this street, crosses over, and then runs down the inside to get to the drain in front of my house. He had suggested that if there was a catch basin here, the normal catch basin is over here, that is up the street. If you could take that one straight across, you might even alleviate part of that water that runs down toward the drains in front of my house. I'm just making what I was told, but I don't know what other. I'm not a drainage expert, but
Okay, just to review council on this thing. This is the house that we hired Burgess and Nyepel to come in and do 3 alternative plans as far as what to do with the water. This is also the house that years ago was the only vacant lot because it's the lowest lot in that block. And because it was vacant, all the drainage in that area ran to that section. Then they built the house there, and once Bruce called, we went and raised the curbing up on the edge next to his driveway, hoping we could funnel it down. We did 2 additional drains in order to catch the water as it got past him. One of the major issues that happens with his house is when the water gets up and cars drive down the street, it literally forces the water over the 3 or 4 inch curbing that we built, and then it has to go somewhere.
I will say one other thing about the curbing. They messed up right at the end and in the low spot. They left a low dip in it. They didn't get the concrete formed properly. So it still runs over in one spot there. It's got a low spot that gets over.
You can't make them too high because of dragging your car on that. So I don't know about the low spot, but I know we couldn't do it any higher without damaging. The new cars were too low.
Yeah.
If you had a pickup truck, it wouldn't make any difference. But at any rate, the situation that we have here is the drainage that cleans up that whole area right there is the open trench that runs down to the country club, crossing Grand Central and then running down to the open trench. The elevations on his yard are lower than the drainage ditch. You can't drain it to the ditch because the ditch is higher and water won't run uphill.
Ask one more question there. You say that was a vacant lot because of the elevation. It sounded to me like, or that was why.
Oh, I don't know why it was left vacant.
How did they?
That house was built, what, in the 60s?
71 or 2.
So, okay.
I just,
We would have known all that before.
we were young and we didn't.
But at any rate,
No,
I'm just trying to explain the issues or the
understand.
challenges
Yes.
with what is there. The options that we have are, 1, tear the street up and bury underground retention to where you actually catch the water and hold it, which we did up on 40th Street. And the other option is to buy the house and tear it down and then make that entire lot a retention system where the house is. It's a lot of money. When the house, you all had it appraised, we had real estate people give us comparisons of what the houses were. But having said that, we need to do something for you as a city to try to make this problem better, because it is an obvious problem. You know, the housing, the neighborhood has developed over the years to where there is a lot more surface water. But this is council's decision of what to do as far as tear the street up, spend $300,000 on a retention system, buy the house. And that's something that we can't do for you tonight, Bruce.
I understand.
But I've talked to you many, many times,
I know, and you.
and I drive by your house a lot when it rains, because I know, and we made it through most of the summer. It was pretty good.
I know. I can tell you, I made it through a couple because of those sandbags.
Yeah, but at any rate, all right, so we need to do something as a council. This is a street issue, because we're going to have to redo the street, or we're going to have to make arrangements to take care of the problem, all right?
Appreciate it. Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
All right,
You've been very helpful, and I appreciate your time. And I will say, you've always been very responsive every time I've ever had a question, so thank you very much.
Would you like those pictures? If you'd like them, just take them,
Sure, thank you.
all right?
Thank
Can you turn the lights back on, please? Mr. Marshall, you are up. Yes, sir. Don't forget your chair.
Mine will be a lot easier than Bruce's, I think. I hope. I brought with me something. Can I use this chair?
Sure.
Get it up where people maybe can see it just a little bit better. Let me say thanks for letting me come tonight as a representative for the Parkersburg High School Foundation. The mayor and I had talked, and he said he would put me on the agenda to come and possibly beg for money. And before I get started, I'd like to talk about these pictures for just a second. These are pictures taken in the Parkersburg High School auditorium. These pictures were just taken a few days ago, and they clearly show the new seats. The seats that we have put in are the red seats here. This picture in the center shows the seats in the balcony area, the dark seats clear at the top. You can see that they're still wood. The ones that we put in are the cloth padded seats at the bottom. This room really stands tall now. You can see that the red carpet with the red seats. The old seats were in there. The room was just blasé. The room now really jumps out at you. It's a very good, much better looking room than what was. The refinished floors stand out now where they didn't before. This shows completely encompasses the entire auditorium, left, right, and the center. This picture down here, what's left of it, Mother Nature didn't help me much coming in here with this, but this is one of the seats that we are selling for $250. It's a cloth padded seat. These are essentially the same seats that were purchased for the new St. Mary's High School structure, and they're extremely comfortable. As you can see in the picture here, these front row pictures, the bottom folds up to accommodate people walking through the aisles. Also, here I brought a list of all the names of the people that are on our foundation board. We have 15 members on the foundation board. I've listed all those. Of course, Kenny DeMoss, the principal of Parkersburg High School, is an ex officio non-voting member of the foundation. And Carrie Nesselrode, some of you probably know Carrie. Carrie is an employee of our foundation. She's employed by our foundation as a communications expert. She also is a non-voting member. It's kind of doubly nice for me to be here this evening and address you, because For 25 years, I met in this room serving on the Vienna Planning Commission. And then for 12 years after that, I was on Vienna City Council. So it kind of feels like a homecoming to me to come back in here this evening. It's very nice. Talking about years on council, since my years on council, which has been a while back now, Vienna has clearly moved forward. New businesses showing up, new parks, new recreational areas. As mayor and council, you folks are to be commended for the hard work that you all and the efforts that you all have made in moving Vienna forward. Vienna is financially sound, financially solvent. It's as robust today as the city of Vienna has ever been at any time through its long tenure. Let me just say to you people, mayor and council, thank you to each one of you for your hard work. It clearly shows, and it's appreciated by those of us that are residents of the city of Vienna. For families that have high school age children and live in Vienna, it's expected that their son or daughter will attend Parkersburg High School. Vienna doesn't have a single high school within our corporate boundaries. Parkersburg has 3. This makes Parkersburg High School extremely important to the residents of the city of Vienna. Parkersburg High School, the school itself now, not the building, but the school itself, is just over 150 years old. The construction on our current building, the building that we're using today, started in 1915 and was completed in 1917. That's the center section, the old section, and classes were held there for the first time in 1917. In fact, we just celebrated a 100-year anniversary of the building a couple of years ago. The Parkersburg News and Sentinel published a really nice book for us commemorating this event. There are not very many high schools in the state of West Virginia who can say to anybody the building that they're currently using is over 100 years old. Many in our community are unaware of the existence of the Parkersburg High School Foundation. Our foundation was formed in 1988 when the building that we were in was 71 years old at that time. It was started by a group of 15 prominent business people in the area who understood that the school would need financial assistance in the future. Our foundation is 501c3 designated. Sometimes our foundation board members are asked, why does a high school need a foundation? Foundations are commonplace at colleges and universities. They're not typical for a high school. Folks will ask us, don't our real estate taxes fund enough money to keep Parkersburg High School running? If we simply think about the fact that Parkersburg High School, our elegant and stately building, is currently over 100 years old, one can probably clearly see the need for a foundation. The county superintendent, the Board of Education members, the county administrators are all financially taking good care of Parkersburg High School. They've always been good partners with our foundation, but we know and they know that there's a budget that they must work in, the parameters of that budget, and they are responsible for all the school buildings in the county. And Parkersburg High School can be no more important than Parkersburg South, Williamstown, or any other school building for that matter in the county. However, many of us here tonight would probably and could probably agree that a building that's over 100 years old would probably have more financial needs than a building that's, let's say, perhaps 50, 25, or 10 years old. These are some of the reasons why the PHS Foundation is needed, and our help is financially important. We help meet the financial goals of the school while encouraging the rich traditions that have always been carried on at Parkersburg High School, and we're enhancing the educational excellence at the school. The current project that I have the pictures of here this evening, it's called a Take a Seat fundraiser. And in this fundraiser, we have replaced all 767 seats on the main floor of the auditorium. All the old seats have been removed, and the hardwood floors have been repaired and refinished, and thank goodness we got it done in time for school to start. The old seats had been in service in the auditorium since 1966. And the seats in the balcony, the dark seats that I mentioned that you can see in the picture, have been in the balcony since 1917. Our new seats were installed by the R.M. Huffman Company. As I said, this is the same company that put the seats in the new St. Mary's High School auditorium. R.M. Huffman is from South Charleston. The total cost of the seat replacement for the auditorium was $157,123. And our fundraising efforts started in May, and so far we have generated about $128,000 for the seat replacement. If you quickly do the math on that, you can see we're about $30,000 still short, and that equates out to about 120 more seats to sell that we need to sell. This seating replacement was one phase of a project that we actually started in 2013. In 2013, our foundation replaced the stage curtains in the auditorium at Parkersburg High School for a cost of $18,000. About a year ago, we replaced the sound and lighting components in the auditorium. That cost us an additional $79,000. When this seating phase of the auditorium project is completed and finished, and hopefully the bills are all paid, we will have spent $254,000 on the auditorium, one room. And we're not done. We have one more phase that we want to do in the auditorium before we can say we're finished. The friezes in the room need to be redone, refurbished. Those are the sculptured faces that appear on the walls down there, and they need a lot of attention, and we want to do that before we complete this. Now, while this was going on, our foundation, every year, we give high school grants to teachers that teach at Parkersburg High School. Our foundation this year gave 9 teacher grants to 7 different teachers, 2 departments, and we gave money to 1 club at the school for a total teacher grant of $22,761. Our foundation board hasn't done this alone. We've had the help and support from the school principal, Kenny DeMoss, that I mentioned. All the school administrators and the staff have helped us. They've been really good to come forth. And perhaps most importantly, we've had the help from the loyal teachers. So this has been a group effort. In closing, I would just humbly, but yet appreciatively ask for your financial help. If you all could purchase perhaps 20 seats or more, it would be sincerely and gratefully appreciated. And also, before I sit back down, I'd like to say one other board member came with me tonight, Dixie Samuel Showalter, back there is one of our board members. Her name's on the board here. Both of us have applications, so if anybody wants an application to buy an individual seat, and while I'm talking about that, I know that some of you all have bought seats as individual council members, and we very much appreciate that. But anything that you can help us with as a city council will be greatly appreciated. Any questions anybody has? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bob. Are you going to leave that picture with us, or are you taking it with you?
Well, I may take it with me. I can leave it here for whatever length of time, if you want, a week or something.
We'll put it out front in the lobby if you care to leave it. If you need it for more displays or whatever, then if you get an opportunity, bring it back,
Right.
and we can put it up out front so the people in Vienna.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I'd like to call to order this regular session of the Vienna City Council for August the 8th, 2019. Let the record reflect that I've taken roll, that all members of council are present. Having a quorum, we will proceed. The minutes from the regular council meeting held on July the 25th, 2019 have been printed, posted, and circulated. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are no objections, then the minutes will stand approved as posted. Report of the treasurer, Councilman Leach.
Thank you, Mayor. After reconciliation funds dated August 8, 2019, I reviewed that. I agree with Councilman Marshall that the city is financially sound.
Thank you. Under unfinished business, we have an item, a resolution ratifying the acceptance of a bid for the sale of the 31st Street Garage, real property, and your lawyer word, curtilage? Curtilage.
Just means yard.
Thank you. Located at 400 31st Street, Vienna. Mr. Skogstad,
If I may,
you may.
thank you. And you have to forgive some of the pop-ups. My wife and kids are home, power's out, so they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do, I guess. I suggest talking to each other when you're There was a question that came up at our last council meeting regarding the sale of the 31st Street Garage. And initially, as I'm sometimes wont to do whenever there's a mistake, I try to be the first person to take ownership of it. But what it caused me to do was to go back and review the documents. It's the reason that we have the ratification before you. I went back and looked at the initial minutes from April 25th, and it was placed on the agenda as a resolution authorizing the sale of the 31st Street Garage. At that council meeting, there was a resolution that was placed on the agenda. It was voted on. I believe a photograph was shown to council that was included in the minutes. There was an aerial photograph that was shown to council, and then while I don't believe this was shown to council, this is the deed that shows the two tracts that make up the parcel. Went back and reviewed the minutes and what have you. There was an indication that we went into executive session. The resolution was approved by vote of 6-0. So the next step is to advertise it and put it in the newspaper. This is a receipt for legal notice. This is an actual photocopy, or not a photocopy, this is an actual copy of the notice that was placed in the newspaper. And I would point out, if you can read it, it's not the best, but it says 431st Street. And that was the notice that was drafted. And again, closer look, 431st Street, Vienna, County, West Virginia. Now, I went back just to make sure that I had the right address for you folks, and I checked with our utility board. That was the address, that 431st Street was the address that was assigned to that garage, to that facility. It's in the water department. It was given an account, and it's had that account for a number of years. And then to take note, 401 is the other garage, which is across the street. It's on the same side as Jimnick's and what have you. There were two bids received. Well, shoot. There were two bids received as a result. If you'll notice, sealed bid 431st Street, Vienna, West Virginia. This was the handwritten bid that was submitted by Mr. Patterson, again 431st Street. This is the bid that was submitted by the envelope that was received from the city, or was sent to the city from West Virginia Funeral Services. Again, sealed bid 431st Street, Vienna, West Virginia. So we've established that the notice putting the property up for sale and putting the property in the paper was accurate. So what has happened is, and I'm sorry, you'll notice that the address here, Ray sealed bid 431st Street. The first typo comes in that sealed bid, 401 31st Street. Now everybody knows, that's my son, he wants video game time. Apparently the power's back on. The first typo occurs in that bid, but you know, we believe, or my opinion is, since it was very clear that it was 431st Street, it makes reference in the actual bid submission itself to 431st Street that this was a typo. They intended to bid the $100,002 on 431st Street. This was at the bid opening. This is the form that we used. This is what gets sent to Budget and Finance for Budget and Finance to consider. Now, it doesn't have an address on there, but it again references sale of the 31st Street garage. This is the memo that that the finance director prepared, setting out again for budget and finance so that they could see it. So what happened was, when we prepared the budget and finance agenda, there was a typo. It listed as 410 31st Street. Now, I went back and checked. There is not a 410 31st Street in the city of Vienna, or at least none that the city owns. So there's a typo. But the information before budget and finance, since budget and finance is essentially a gatekeeping or recommending body, I don't think there's any question. And council ultimately has the decision as to whether or not to accept the bid. So anyway, it was voted on, it was accepted, it was recommended to council. It was placed on the council agenda, and this is where typos happen again. The typo simply was carried over. 410 31st Street. I don't think that there's any question that council, when it was voting on July 11th to accept the bid that was brought before it, there was any question in council's mind as to what property they were selling. And I went back, reviewed the minutes, and what have you. So I've asked to be placed on the agenda a resolution ratifying the acceptance. And just a couple of things. Most of the council members know, and some of the public do and don't. Selling property, selling real property in the city of Vienna or any municipality in the state of West Virginia requires a reading by ordinance. You have to have an ordinance to ultimately give permission to sell the property. Accepting the bid does not sell the property. This is like when you make an offer on a house and the bank accepts it, there are still steps that you have to go through. Now, for most folks, that means going out and getting the financing so that they can pay for the house. But for a municipal corporation, you actually have to come back, present an ordinance for council to consider and for council to ultimately decide. So we've never sold the property on 431st Street. What we've done to this point is accept a bid. It is my legal opinion that at that last meeting, there was no question about council. There was no question that council accepted the bid to sell 431st Street, despite what appeared on the agenda. Now, we're going to have to come at it, and when I finish the closing documents, I'm going to have to come back and bring a deed and what have you, and we're going to have to go through 2 readings for council to authorize the actual conveyance of the property. But tonight, what I've looked at is the same thing that I've shown you is 20 years from now, somebody could come back and say, well, gosh, I want to look at the records. The records aren't very clear. So I've asked to simply put, for purposes of cleaning up our minutes, a resolution for council to authorize the acceptance of the bid, to clean up the records. And then I've drafted a memo that lays out in actually a much nicer form than what I've done tonight, exactly what happened so that that can be included in the minutes, along with, if council wants, the copies of the documents that I've presented. But we didn't sell the property. We accepted a bid. There's the next step that we have to go through. And so that's my reasoning, and I would just ask that you all consider this so we can clean up our minutes.
Russ, would you go back to the newspaper advertisement
Sure.
there one more time?
I would love to.
Thank you.
(431st Street, Vienna). Building a lot located at 431st Street, Vienna, Wood County, West Virginia. And then it goes through how the sealed
And
bids
the
are
one on
created.
the other side of the street is actually 401, correct?
Yes, that's my
The
understanding.
other property, okay, thank you.
Yep, and that's the same side. Jim Nix, I think, is next to it, and it's 407. So that's the odd number side of the street. Anybody else? Mr. Rep?
Would you please straighten the agenda up? Neatness counts.
Does that work?
Yes, sir. I'd like a little less brown, but I'll live with that.
A little less bright.
Never mind, sit down. Gee. Mr. Skogstad, would you read the resolution, please?
Be it resolved by the Common Council, I skipped ahead of myself. Resolution ratifying the acceptance of a bid for the sale of the 31st Street Garage, real property in curtilage located at 431st Street, Vienna, Wood County, West Virginia. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that it hereby ratifies the July 11, 2019 acceptance of the highest bid submitted by West Virginia Funeral Services, LLC, in the amount of $100,002 submitted by sealed bid on or about June 5th, 2019. It's the intent of this resolution to ratify the bid acceptance and to clarify the record regarding the purchase of the property as the agenda item placed on July 11, 2019 Vienna City Council agenda, or on the July 11, 2019 Vienna City Council agenda listed the incorrect address.
I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the resolution ratifying the acceptance of a bid for the sale of the 31st Street Garage real property and curtilage located at 400 31st Street, Vienna, Wood County, West Virginia.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution. Is there any discussion?
Just one thing, actually, when this kind of came up, a banker friend of mine sent me a text and he said, real property doesn't get sold by address anyway. It gets sold by the legal description. Is that correct?
Yes.
In other words, so the address, because 911 can change your address and so forth,
Anytime.
but it's,
Yeah.
the deed, that's why you don't know what your property tax is for,
But
right? Because it says lot number 27 of Riverview Edition.
But I've found over the years that it is easier for people for the public to look at an address and say, okay, that's 431st Street, as opposed to seeing a legal description that says being all that of lot number 27 of the Taverner subdivision, starting southeast 26 degrees, 14 feet north, and then moving hence 150 degrees or 150 feet and so forth. So,
Any further discussion? And I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the resolution ratifying the acceptance of the bid for the sale of the 31st Street Garage, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business this evening. The first item on our agenda this evening is the 2019-2020 Community Development Block Grant application. Tony?
Hi there. Before you tonight is the City of Vienna's annual action plan for its Community Development Block Grant Program for the time period of October the 1st, 2019 to September the 30th, 2020. The city will be receiving $102,695, which is the largest amount of CDBG funds they have received since they became involved with the program. We are proposing to spend those funds with $62,695 for energy efficient doors and windows for low to moderate income households, $25,000 for roofs, gutters, downspouts, and HVAC systems, and $15,000 for administration. And just to give you an idea, during the current year, the city has assisted with renovations to 15 houses, and that included 8 window and door projects, 4 gutters and downspouts, and 3 new roofs. So roughly we are proposing to do probably another 15 houses again in the upcoming year. All the work was done to owner-occupied homes that met the requirements of the program. And we have held the necessary public hearings. We placed the legal notices in the paper. Upon the city's approval, we will send the application to the HUD office in Pittsburgh. And hopefully hear back by October the 1st, but I wouldn't bet on it.
Okay. Any questions for Tony before we actually go through the resolution? All right, stand right there.
Okay.
And be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Vienna that the following projects be included in the 2019-2020 Community Development Block Grant application. Enhancement, public services, housing, energy efficient windows and doors replacement program, $62,695. Housing, minor home improvement program, roof, gutters, downspouts, and HVAC, $25,000. Planning and administration and general administration, $15,000 for a grand total of $102,695. Upon the adoption of the resolution, the City Council of the City of Vienna hereby adopts the attached annual action plan for its Community Development Block Grant Program for the 2019-2020 program year. and hereby authorizes the submission to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, Pittsburgh office. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the resolution for the 2019-2020 Community Development Block Grant application.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution adopting the plan. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the resolution, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Tony, thank you for your work. You're the best.
Well, I appreciate that.
It is pretty good.
Okay, great. The next item on our agenda this evening is a resolution changing the Vienna Police Department Civil Service Commission Rule Number 8 regarding promotion, vacancies, examinations, and the eligibility list. With us this evening, we have Kathy Stoltz, who is the president or chairman of the Vienna Police Civil Service Commission.
Unpaid.
Unpaid for 25 years, 30 years. How long? Long time. Okay. Kathy, I'm sorry I was gone today. I do not have the copy that you sent me that has the red line in it. Well, it's not very long. The changes that are being proposed. The highlighted areas where you
Yeah.
did instead of black? Okay, great.
What's
Okay,
added.
we have it. It's just not red.
It's added.
The bold-faced and italicized stuff is the actual change.
Yeah.
Not when you get it from Kathy Stoltz, it's red,
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
okay?
Yeah, yeah, those are.
Because it tells you what it was before and now what the changes are. So the changes in the rules, have you all had a chance to examine the changes? Are there any questions that we can have Kathy clarify before we actually adopt these changes? All right. This is a resolution changing Vienna Police Civil Service Commission Rule 8 regarding promotions, vacancies, examinations, and the eligibility list. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that Rule 8, promotions, is hereby amended to read as follows. Rule 8, promotions. A, vacancies. Vacancies in any rank shall be filled by promotion of individuals holding positions in the next lower grade in the department. To be eligible for promotion, such candidates must have completed at least 2 years of continuous service in the next lower grade in the department immediately prior to the examination. When a vacancy occurs, the mayor shall notify the commission of such vacancy and shall request either the name of the candidate certified eligible for promotion, if a valid eligibility list is in effect, or that the commission cause a competitive examination to be conducted within a reasonable time after such request if no valid list is in effect. A new test will be conducted only in the following circumstances. The last test was more than 3 years previously, or the eligibility list has been exhausted, or there are candidates who were not eligible at the time of the last test but have become eligible since the last test. Examinations. If at the time a vacancy to be filled by promotions occurs, candidates who were not eligible to take the promotional examination which established the eligibility list currently in effect have become eligible, the commission will conduct a new examination for promotion. Each eligible candidate who wishes to be considered for promotion must take the new examination. A new eligibility list will be established based on the scores of all candidates taking the new test. The scores of each candidate on the eligibility list will be adjusted to reflect his or her years of service points as of the date of the most recent test. Any candidate who has declined to take a previous promotional test or tests shall remain eligible to take any subsequent scheduled test for which he or she meets the qualifications. Eligibility list. When notified of a vacancy, the commission shall certify for promotion the person receiving the highest passing combined score on the most recent competitive examination. An eligibility list shall be valid so long as there are persons who have received a passing grade and who have not yet been promoted, resigned, or otherwise become ineligible for promotion, or for a period of 3 years from the date of such examination, whichever occurs first. A candidate on the eligibility list may request in writing that the commission bypass him or her and certify the next highest scoring candidate as eligible for appointment to the current vacancy. The candidate bypass will retain his or her position on the list for future vacancies within the life of the list. The portion of the above rule that is bold and italicized are the proposed changes that were made by the Vienna Civil Service Commission. I will entertain a motion for the approval of the resolution changing Vienna Police Civil Service Commission Rule 8 regarding promotions, vacancies, examinations, and the eligibility list.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution changing Vienna Police Civil Service Commission Rule 8. Is there any discussion?
Maybe we could have someone just briefly talk to us about the reason for the changes.
I will be very brief. Is this on?
Yes.
The first two changes are basically just reinforcing and making more specific what is already in our rules. We have our rules and we have state code, and once in a while things come up that aren't particularly clear in either of those places. I guess our officers are clever people. Every now and then they point one of these out to me. And it's been several years, but we had a couple questions this year, and those two are just clarification. The third one, talking about somebody passing up a promotion, will they be eligible if another opening comes along? Some of the officers who are eligible for promotion this time have only been with the department for 2+ years or 3 years, fairly short term, but under state code, they're eligible to take this test. The particular case that brought it our attention was somebody who recently took a new assignment, is enjoying learning that assignment, and would like to stay in it for a while. If by chance he was the highest scoring person on the test and was at the head of the eligibility list, he really would rather not change jobs right away. But if another opening came up in a couple of years while this list is still good, he would like to be considered for it then. And that's why we added that language, to make that clear that you can say no once, or God forbid it should come up twice, but that you then will get another chance because you were the highest scorer the first time around. Any other questions about that?
Kathy, that's only for the duration of whatever time is left on that list.
Right. And normally that's 3 years unless new officers, it has not been 3 years since the last one, but newer officers have become eligible, and so we're having to give another test. That will be September the 7th. And we should have a name after that to fill a vacancy.
Thank
That's
you.
it. I'm not leaving angry. I'm leaving because I have grandchildren at home waiting to go to bed.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the resolution changing Vienna Police Civil Service Commission Rule 8, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Kathy, thank you. Mr. Leach, the next 4 or 5 are yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. So the next item on the agenda is bid approval, street department, street paving. This matter was taken up in Budget and Finance, and after an executive session discussing this, we came out in the Budget and Finance Committee, recommended that this bid be rebid. And if there's any further clarification on that, I would direct any questions to Mr. Skogstad.
Yeah, I would like to have an explanation as to why the bid is going to be rejected.
Well, there were 2 bids that were submitted. The lowest bid did not conform, in my opinion, with West Virginia State Code, West Virginia Code 522.1, and I want to say D. But either way, West Virginia Code 522.1 requires that a bid bond be submitted with all bids. The lowest bidder did not submit a bid bond. The second bid actually did conform. It was the highest bid, but there have been some other construction projects that have come to my attention that have what I would deem also non-conforming bids. And so what the finance director and I have done is gone back over our general specifications because the question is, why are we getting bids that aren't conforming with state code? And so we've added very explicitly language in there, both referencing the code and laying out requirements. My recommendation is, because the language is not as clear in the general specification as it could be, that all of the bids be rejected, that it be resolicited, and that it be renoticed so that other bidders who may have otherwise been confused, or maybe it wasn't clear enough to them as to what the state code requirements are, have an opportunity to submit bids. And we don't know if other bidders, for whatever reason, are not bidding on property or bidding on property on projects because the general instruction isn't clear enough. So it's one of those things that sometimes you need to go back and look at what you're doing, and if you're maybe you can do it better, and hopefully that's what we've done. So that's my recommendation.
So have we, did I understand you that in the past we as a council have accepted bids from vendors that maybe did not submit a bid bond?
I'm not aware of us having accepted a construction project bid where a vendor has not submitted a bid bond. Now, I've been here for, was it 2007, so 12 years. And the first time that a construction project came in, I went back through and we make sure that they're submitted a bid bond. But what has happened is other individuals have had their bids rejected because they've not submitted a bid bond. Now, I can't speak for what happened prior to 2007. I don't know that. But I know what happened after I started. And we have rejected people in the past for not submitting bid bonds. I'm not aware of us accepting any bids where they have not submitted a bid bond. But to be fair, I also don't review every single bid that comes in. I only review the ones that I'm asked to review.
I guess one of my concerns is, unless I've missed it, when you look at the legal notice of the invitation to bid, there's really nothing in there that indicates that they're required to submit the bid bond. Are we relying solely on the fact that that's part of state code and it's not specified in the legal notice of bid?
Well, we're relying in part on that. The other part is part of the bid packet, in addition to the specification for whatever the project is. For example, I think you've reviewed a copy of the bid project for the paving project that is in question here. And if you'll note, there is a map that lays out where the paving is going to occur, the depth of, the thickness, I guess, for lack of a better term, of the asphalt that's going to be laid and what have you. There are technical specifications that are part of the bid project, but there's also a list of general specifications that are given to any person who requests a bid packet. So there's a bid packet that's put together. It's made of, at a minimum in projects like this, two parts: the technical specifications and then the general specifications. In the past, the general specifications have said you must submit a bid that conforms with the laws of the state of West Virginia. And I'm paraphrasing, but it says you must submit a bid that conforms with the laws of the state of West Virginia. In the past, I have relied on that based on my conversations with the auditor, that is acceptable language. My concern is that since we've received, and I don't want to say a number, but we received bids in the last handful of years that have not met that statutory requirement, that maybe we need to make it a little more clear and not rely on a contractor, sophisticated or not, to know that if you're bidding on a state project or if you're bidding on a project that's government funded, construction project particularly, that you have to submit a bid bond, a performance bond, and what have you. So we're going to make that language a little more direct. Well, when I say direct, I put it in the spec in the general spec now.
Okay.
So I don't know that you need it in the regular notice. You're not going to bid on the project unless you pick up a bid packet, and it's going to be included in the bid packet. So.
Obviously, I'm concerned because, I've spoken in the past about, my concerns about having single bid projects, and here's one where we do have two, and the low bid is not going to be accepted because of the bond issue. And I'm certainly not an attorney, and I have to ask the question. There's not a situation where you could say accepted contingent upon producing that bond?
No, not my reading of the statute is and I could find the language, but it's very explicit that no bid shall be accepted that does not have with it a bid bond or other valuable surety. Now, I've had a conversation with another council person that has a different opinion than I do. But I also went back and reviewed the case law with respect to the state of West Virginia, and based on that case law, there is not a case that is directly on point for bid bonds. In fact, there are only 3 references that I can recall that deal with West Virginia Code 522.1, and none of those deal specifically with the bid bond issue. They do deal with rejecting bonds accepting bids that have that are non-conforming with the spec, but only where the nonconformity is not a material issue. But in my opinion, when the statute says you have to submit a bid bond with a bid, and you fail to do so, that is a non-conforming bid, and there's actually a section or a provision in the same code that makes it a misdemeanor if you were to knowingly accept a bid that does not conform. So my opinion is the statute is very clear, and you can't accept it. And I can keep going if you guys want.
Actually, I have a comment here too, as being the councilperson of a different opinion. Yeah, because when this came up, Roger, when you looked at the bid spec, the legal notice, like you already identified, did not require the bid bond. And then in the section of the bid spec itself, it talked about, there's two proposal or bid bond, and then the performance bond. And the bid bond's designed to make sure you don't bid, get the contract, and then not take it. So I looked at state code too, and it's up to the city, for example, to determine what the bid bond is. And state code simply, in the West Virginia Purchasing Guide, simply says, well, 5% is customary. But it's up to us to decide what, and that was not even, that was not identified. And then the other thing is it said that, the proposal contract or proposal bond, if applicable, and performance bond, if applicable, shall be in the form hereto attached. There's no attach for a performance bond or a bid bond or proposal bond. So, it was my opinion that you really couldn't tell from this, even though there is a reference to state code, but state code doesn't set the amount of the bid bond. And then so when it came to budget and finance, it was like, we have the opportunity here, without accepting one or the other and prejudicing one party or another, to simply, we absolutely have the right to reject any bid that we deem appropriate, and that seemed to be the better course of action. And then Russ, like I say, the bid spec will incorporate those issues that came up, and so it's an opportunity. It does delay us, which nobody likes, but it's an opportunity to reset it, make sure everybody's on the same page, and move that forward. Because you're right, we've got a number of bids we're considering today that we only have one bidder, and that's, in my view, a problem. And we need to take some steps to try to encompass additional competitive bids, which is also why I supported, increasing the non-bid purchase agreement to 10,000. And Steve Black addressed that in the budget and finance meeting. He feels he can get better prices that way.
Well, certainly, I want to make sure whatever we do is legal, and I'm not arguing the legal case because you guys are the attorneys, I'm not. But, my concern is just that, the single bid, and we got two here, and there's a huge difference between the low bid and the high bid in this particular case. And I got a feeling that when this thing goes out to bid, that we're not going to see those kind of differences. I expect it's going to cost us a considerable amount of money.
Hope not.
Well,
But, that's a sermon icing on my part. But, there again, we obviously have to do it legally, but those were my concerns.
yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Leach. Based on the Finance Committee recommendation and our city attorney's opinion, we are going to rebid that. It will come back to Budget and Finance once the bids are reported in.
Anything else on that?
No, sir.
All right, next item is the bid approval for Street Department for salt. We received sealed bids 2019-20 winter season on August 2nd at 9 a.m. And again, we had 3 bids that some response was submitted. Both Compass Minerals and Morton Salt submitted no bid. Cargill Inc. submitted 99.93 ton delivered, the same rate for pickup. And after a careful review of the bid proposals, recommendation for council that they approve the bid from Cargill Inc. for $99.93, and I expect Craig would like to have that delivered.
Yeah.
And funding for this project will be from the city's general fund.
Just for clarification, all 3 of those companies did send bid packets back. The 2 decline letters were included in there. So there were 3 companies that picked them up. The $99.93 per ton is approximately $4 more this year than it was last year. Last year's price from Cargill was $95 and some change for the for salt. Okay.
They
So
didn't
I'll
sell
enter-
much last year.
I'm sorry.
They didn't sell much last year.
No. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the sealed bid for salt for the 2019-2020 winter season from Cargill Incorporated in the amount of $99.93 per ton.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the bid from Cargill for salt. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, sir. Pertaining to the decline letters, was there any explanation with those?
There was not.
Okay.
It simply said we respectfully decline submitting a bid. Any other discussion? I'll call for the question. And all those in favor of accepting the bid from Cargill Incorporated for $99.93, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries.
Next item on our agenda, number 3, is bid approval Parks Department financing of a mini excavator. This is financing again for the Parks Department. They were open Friday, August 2nd, 10:15 a.m. with the following results. United Bank bid on a 3-year of 2.95%, 4-year 2.95%. We also received a bid from West Banco, 3 years at 2.99%, 4 years at 3.25%. After a careful review of the bid proposals, the recommendation for council for approval was from the Budget and Finance Committee for the financing of the Parks Department mini excavator is United Bank. The 3-year note at 2.95%. Funding for this project is budgeted in the city's general fund.
And for the record, Jim, there were 9 packets sent out for this financing and only 2 responded. Okay? I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the sealed bid for the financing of the Parks Department mini excavator. Financing to be at United Bank for 3 years at 2.95%.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the bid from United Bank for 2.95% for 3 years for the financing of the mini excavator. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of accepting the bid from United Bank, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Next item on our agenda is bid approval for the Parks Department for 2 SCAG mowers. Sealed bids for the purchase of the 2 mowers for the Parks Department were open July 26, 2019 at 10 a.m. with the following single bid result: Ford Timber Company bidding $24,170. After a careful review of the bid proposals, the recommendation for council approval from the Budget and Finance Committee for the purchase of the 2 SCAG mowers is Ford Timber $24,170 And again, funding for this project will be from the city's 2019-2020 general fund budget pending council approval.
I'll entertain a motion for the acceptance of the sealed bid for the purchase of 2 Skag mowers for the Parks Department from Ford Timber Company in the amount of $24,170.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of accepting the bid from Ford Timber for 2 Skag mowers in the amount of $24,170, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Next item is item number 7, bid approval for the Parks Department for 2 pickup trucks. Those sealed bids for the purchase of 2 pickup trucks were opened on July 19th, 2019 at 10:30 a.m. with following results. Single bid, Matheny Motors, for a total of for an individual price of $30,648 each. Total price $61,296. And after careful review of the bid proposal, the recommendation to council for the approval from the Budget and Finance Committee for the purchase of the 2 pickup trucks for the Parks Department is Matheny Motors for the $61,296. And again, general fund budget 2019-20, pending council approval is the source of the funds.
As a note, we typically buy vehicles from state contract. Chief Pfeiffer, would you give us a brief comment on the state contract policy?
Well, there was no state contract this year, so it was just recommended that we went out and placed that out for bid what we needed, so that's what we did. Pick back up.
Yeah, the only state contract, as I understand it, is for state police duly colored interceptors that only fit the state police.
Yeah, I got a hold of Russ when that stuff came out and took a look at it. And
Okay. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the sealed bids for the purchase of 2 pickup trucks for the Parks Department from Matheny Motors in the amount of $61,296.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the bid from Matheny Motors for 2 pickup trucks. Is there any further discussion?
What kind of trucks are these?
just standard pickup trucks, 2-passenger.
Half-ton, 3/4 ton, Ford, GMC.
I think they would be GMC.
I thought they're from the Phoenix, they're probably GMC. Oh, do they? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's right.
Regular cab, 139-inch wheelbase, minimum seating for 3 passengers, 4-wheel drive, white exterior, 7,600 GVWR, 5.3 V8 engine, 220 amp alternator, 6-speed automatic transmission, and then the other items that are standard. We do have AM/FM radio, clock interior, but no bells or whistles.
GMCs, Steve.
Yes. And while I'm talking, can I just add one thing, as Councilman Lynch pointed out, except for the financing that I don't do, I contacted at least 3 vendors for each one of these bids. So, I'm trying.
Now, Steve, what are these? Are these replacing some of the older ones, or what's the plans for these trucks?
205, whatever the brackets are that hold the cab to the chassis are gone, and the chassis is in bad shape. So it's parked, and another one, we're on borrowed time with the engine, transmission's in bad shape. We can use it just right in the vicinity. Craig actually is lending us a truck till these come in. The newest truck we have is 3 years old. The next newest is 6. So everything we have is virtually 10 to 15 years old. Except our dump truck. That's an antique and that thing is great.
Any further discussion? All right, I'll call for the question then. All those in favor of accepting the sealed bid for the purchase of 2 pickup trucks for the Parks Department from Matheny Motors for $61,296, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Item number 8, sealed bids for the purchase of a mule dump bed for the Parks Department were opened on July 19, 2019 at 10:15 a.m. with the following results. Big Town Motorsports being the only bidder at $8,484. After careful review of the bid proposals, the recommendation for council approval from the Budget and Finance Committee for the purchase of a mule with dump bed is Big Town Motorsports, $8,484. Funding for the projects from the city's 2019-2020 general fund budget pending council approval.
I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the sealed bids for the purchase of a mule with a dump bed for the Parks Department from Big Town Motorsports in the amount of $8,484.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the bid from Big Town Motors for a mule with a dump bed. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Mayor, since this is a single sourced bid and technically it's under 10,000, so it does not have to be a bid, can you go outside the area and shop to see if there's a better price available?
Mr. Black?
We just passed the 10,000 or under. The department heads have the ability to go out and purchase without a bid.
We did discuss that, Mr. Conley. Mr.
Okay.
Black?
Well, actually, this was bid, at that time, the $10,000 threshold was in place. I did contact 2 other technical dealers in this area. One actually called me the day before Budget and Finance, told me he forgot, and the other one did not submit a bid.
But I guess my point is, unless I'm mistaken, this doesn't technically require us to go with a bid because we now have the ability to purchase under $10,000.
Do you think you could do, if this was not approved for purchase, and I don't know whether that's prudent or not, actually, do you think you could put the city in a better position by being able to go out and because you've already talked to the vendors you wanted to as well, correct? So what's your,
In the newspaper, plus contacted 3 people. One of the other ones would have bid on it, but it was going to be a higher number. That he did tell me. The other one just didn't respond.
so do you think this is the best price we're gonna get? Do you think this will be the best price we would get even if you had that opportunity with the under 10,000?
But another thing that I look at is maintenance and repairs. You know, if I've got somebody in Columbus, we'll say, or somebody in Huntington, I have to get the equipment to them. These are local people. When I say local, Ohio, West Virginia, within probably 45 to 50 miles.
Big Town Motors is in Marietta, though.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm not a,
Actually, every one of them is in Marietta. Oh, no, one is here, yeah, and then else.
and I'm not certainly a side-by-side or a 4x4 guy at all, but I guess my other question would be that this specified a Kawasaki mule. Is there other pieces of equipment out there comparable to? And there again, I'm going back to the fact that you don't have to bid this. You can just go, you can shop for the best value.
Basically, like I said, mule with a dump bed, 4-stroke engine, fuel injection, fuel system, curb weight 1,200 pounds, wheelbase 70 inches. You know, I didn't ask for the Kawasaki.
And I guess that's my point. Is there something else out there that gives you that same value? I don't know. I'm just asking the question. Have we really looked at that? Because I mean, you specify in the bid Kawasaki mule, so obviously the other people are not going to probably submit a bid.
No, I just said mule.
Okay, but is that not just Kawasaki? I think I think the mule is theirs.
All of the other ones that we have are the same brand. So the parts for changing the oil and all that interchange.
Okay.
But
Well, actually, the other 2 vendors, I mean, I know, I got this from the guys, and they both do carry Kawasaki. So is that what I was looking for? You know, I was going based on that. Well, my guys have requested.
Honestly, if we reject the bid this evening, you can make your phone calls, get your 3 prices, because the bid ceiling has been raised, it does not have to come back to council for approval. So if the 8484 turns out to be the highest or the best value, we can simply, do that. And if you make your phone calls and log it in as to what, what the other ones did, it'll delay your getting it a day or two, Steve, but
Or you could table this, let them have time to check the other prices, see if they're in fact lower, or see if they are higher or lower. And then if they come in higher, you have somebody locked in to the $8,400 price because you've accepted their offer, or the offer's open. And the bid spec, as I recall, usually keeps the offers open for 60 days? So you could table it to the next council meeting, let him have time to check to see if there are other prices, and then just, if there are not lower priced machines, then accept this one and.
I'll
you've
tell
got
you
your price.
this, if you go to a John Deere UTV with a dump bed, you're not gonna get it at that price. No way.
no.
Well, you all said if I get 3 prices, I could do that tomorrow.
Yes. Are you concerned about the 8484 that we need to table this?
I mean, I'll do whatever.
Okay. Well, if we table it, it does not have to be brought back.
Correct.
All right? But anyway, we have a motion to accept the sealed bid for the purchase of a mule with a dump bed for the Parks Department from Big Town Motorsports. Is there, for $8,484. Is there any further discussion?
So we voting on the purchase or the table?
No. We're voting on the purchase.
Okay.
If you would like to table it, now is your opportunity to make the motion to table it.
Well, I think I mean, we're only talking about a couple of days, and we may not find a better buy, but I think we need to just table it and let Steve pick up the phone, make a couple phone calls, and just make sure that we are spending the citizens' money as wisely as we can.
And then if the 8484 is still,
Accept it.
it does not have to be brought
has a
back here.
60-day
You
guarantee
can
on it.
proceed with the
No,
purchase.
it'll have to come back. Unless the guy will honor the 8484.
Right. What the mayor says is accurate. If, it doesn't have to come back if the vendor that has currently submitted a bid wants to go ahead and honor the $8,400 that he's made. If he does that, Steve can just buy it.
That's
He
that's
doesn't
what I
have
was
to do
asking.
that.
Yes.
That's what I was asking.
Yes.
Right. But if he chooses not to do that, then we have to go through this process to lock in the bid.
But we still need a motion to table it, if that's your desire.
So moved.
Okay, I'll second it.
Yeah,
I see
Been
where
moved
we're
and
at.
seconded that we table this
Yeah.
bid for the Big Town Motorsports 8484. Is there any further discussion?
As I understand, that will give you the most flexibility, because you can just do this tomorrow. If you get a better price, great. That gives you every option, so I agree.
All right. All those in favor of tabling the bid from Big Town Motorsports, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? 6-1. Okay. The next item on our agenda this evening is an ordinance on first reading granting a franchise to Community Antenna Service for the construction and operation of a cable system. Mr. Skogstad, an overview, please.
Under West Virginia State Code, the Public Service Commission rules, cable operators in any county, municipality, or what have you are required to go through and renew or request that their franchise be renewed. I don't want to say it's a pass-through, but it's really not much more than that. The two agreements that you have, one for CAS and one for Suddenlink, are identical. The Public Service Commission requires that if you have more than one franchise operating in the area, they have to operate under the same terms and conditions. Essentially, this is an ordinance renewing the franchise agreement for 10 years. You could attempt to negotiate with either Suddenlink or CAS. You do not have much leverage to negotiate with Suddenlink or CAS. most of your remedy comes from the customers themselves through the Public Service Commission. I've done 10 years in this case or suggest 10 years, which is what's in the agreement for both, simply because the minimum statutory requirement is 5 years. This is more or less a formality. The only time that it comes up as an issue is when one of the franchising agencies, and you are very lucky in this area that you have two competing organizations, most places don't, is when one of the organizations is going to roll out, or for you to encourage them to roll out new cable, for lack of a better term, to get new customers, and that's the only way that you can really negotiate. And you can negotiate the time and some of the services, but you don't have that here. CAS, I think, last rolled their new customers support. I want to say 2005, 2006. It's been a while back. The ordinances are quite lengthy. I think they were provided. I know they were provided to council. I think they're on the website. I also included the West Virginia legislative rule that deals with the renewal for anybody that wants to review that. But essentially, they're 10-year agreements. Both companies appear to be able to support the cable services that they presently offer. And really, I don't have much more than that.
All right.
Thanks.
I'll entertain a motion on first reading for the approval of the ordinance granting a franchise to Community Antenna Service Incorporated for the construction and operation of a cable system in the city of Vienna for a 10-year period.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve on first reading the granting of a franchise to Community Antenna Service for the construction and operation of a cable system. Is there any further discussion?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And I just want a point of clarification, and I'll make sure that I understand that. We've dealt with this before over the years, and my understanding, we cannot deal with a single franchise. Is that correct?
You can't have different terms. You can't have terms that are different from one franchise to the other unless one of those franchises is doing some type of capital expenditure in your area. So I think 15 years ago, CAS rolled out new service to parts of Vienna. There was a different term in that agreement that actually gave them a longer period in their agreement as consideration of some sort, as consideration for that rollout. But other than that, and actually that was litigated, and the court said that agreement was fine with that different term and condition.
Does the Public Service Commission have any oversight on customer service of cable companies?
They're the ones who deal with the complaints.
Well, there's many.
Well,
there's many.
Right.
Particularly, and I'm just saying, particularly with Suddenlink. If you watch social media, talk to people on the street, Suddenlink's probably got the worst customer service of any company that I know of that's operating today. So what I was getting at is, where do we refer these people to? Is it the Public Service Commission?
Public Service Commission.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? And I'll call for the question. All those in favor on first reading of the ordinance granting a franchise to Community Antenna Service for the construction and operation of a cable system, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. The last item on our agenda this evening is an ordinance on first reading granting a franchise to Seabridge Acquisition LLC, doing business as Suddenlink Communications, for the construction and operation of a cable system.
So moved. I think that's where we're at.
Yes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the ordinance on first reading granting a franchise to Seabridge Acquisitions LLC, doing business as Suddenlink Communications. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the granting of the ordinance on first reading for a franchise to Seabridge Acquisition LLC, doing business as Suddenlink Communications, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. That concludes our agenda for this evening. We move to council comments.
I'll jump out here first. Bob, it's my wife's birthday today, and I remember when I was a senior in high school, and I think they called it the review then. She sang a solo, and I was in that auditorium, so I'll take 2 seats for her birthday for us.
Yeah, there you go. Do we have to sing happy birthday to her?
Not in this.
Any other council comments this evening?
Jim, I'm gonna chime in. Today's my wife's birthday.
No kidding.
Uh-huh. And she also went to PHS, so I'll take 2 for her birthday.
What is it we say? Once a big red, always a big red?
The next council meeting will be a regular council session scheduled for August the 22nd at 7 p.m. This coming Monday, the city of Vienna will be having a first. We are going to swear in our first female police officer. Her name is Alyssa Kern, and she has already got a date to go to the State Police Academy, August 26th. So her career is off and running, because we usually have to wait for those. All right? With that, meeting adjourned.